The Chicago Bulls have reportedly been quietly gauging the interest of Zach LaVine. We're going to talk about why that is important and why it's different than saying they're shopping Zach LaVine, as many outlets are running with the title. We're going to get into all that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
All right, Bulls fans, welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. We're here to bust down rumors, right? And this is the thing that I always do, and I always tell you guys, look at the way things are reported. And so it came out today after a article from Jake Fisher over at Yahoo Sports, and this was an article that wasn't even built around Zach LaVine. It was more built around the Bradley Beal situation, and talked about the volatility around the league and players that could be shot because of it and things like that. And literally, at the end of this article, at a small portion of the article at that, Zach LaVine was mentioned. And in that part, it was this: wishful executives keep their eyes peeled on Portland and Damian Lillard, but it's the Chicago Bulls who have started contacting teams quietly gauging the trade interest in Zach LaVine, league sources told Yahoo Sports. It remains to be seen just how willing Chicago is to part ways with LaVine, or if it receives a offer for his services. LaVine has 4 seasons remaining on his 5-year, $215 million contract, and multiple teams have indicated the Bulls are holding a steep valuation for LaVine and is likely to exceed what Washington can ultimately net for Bradley Beal. Now, that is far different from, for example, Bleacher Report, who Bleacher Report took this article, as they do, and then changed it with the Bulls are shopping Zach LaVine, which is not what's happening either, right? I always tell you guys this. Let's be real in the way that we report it. Let's have integrity in that. And so the reason why gauging and shopping are very different things, right? We know that the Bulls have had or were expected to have talks and reach out about that number 3 overall pick. They could have also reached out for the number 2 pick. I believe the number 5 and number 10 picks are also potentially on the market to be shopped in this draft. Gauging interest simply means that, hey, what would you give us for Zach in case that we look for him? Oh, okay. Could we get the number 2 overall pick for that? No, you're not willing to come off the number 2 or number 3 pick for Zach. Okay, cool. Thanks. Thanks for taking the call. That is it. When you have these outlets now searching, and we talked about it a couple of days before ago as well, what as far as everybody's looking for the headline. And so gauging interest, I'll say this, AK and Eversley should be gauging interest for everyone. We've talked about it. They should be gauging it for DeMar. They should be gauging it for Zach, because this team is so far off. And if you're able to net a player that you think then can extend your window to build around, and you can build a more championship level team around with the Scoot, right? Or a player like that, you should absolutely see if what you can get, if you have enough to go after that, if you hold those guys in the area where you think that they are legitimately players that you can build a contending team around for years and years to come. They should be doing. That does not mean that they are actively shopping Zach LaVine and trying to move him by any means necessary, right? That's a very different thing. And why you're going to have some Bulls fans, some outlets, some of everyone come out now and talk about the Bulls are shopping Zach LaVine. It's much like we heard at the trade deadline when it came to the New York Knicks reportedly offering, 3-4 first-round picks for Zach, and then we end up coming out, there was nothing to that deal, actually. That deal was never as close or even formalized as much as some people try to report on. Now, as far as what if the Bulls really are gauging that interest around Zach, here's what I'll say, right? I said this over on Locked On Bulls today. I'll say it again here. I do not think Zach LaVine finishes this deal with the Chicago Bulls. I do think that eventually, especially when you look at how far they're away, unless they actually get to an Eastern Conference Finals in the next 2 years, I absolutely expect at some point them to change from gauging interest to actively be shopping Zach LaVine, right? We've heard that there are some believers, some non-believers inside the Bulls front office. We've even heard that maybe even some people in Bulls ownership aren't as enamored with Zach LaVine. Players siding with Billy Donovan when Zach LaVine and Billy Donovan had their tisk. I do believe that unless this team turns it around and gets to a level of being able to compete, truly compete, or at least be close enough to where they can convince themselves they are close to being a title contender, eventually, with just the size of the contract, that may mean looking to move Zach LaVine elsewhere, right? Period. That's what I think could eventually happen. But as far as this offseason, if you're holding out your hope that this now signals the fact that the Bulls are heading into a full rebuild, Let me bust that bubble now. That is not what this means at all. Could it mean that? Is that a possibility? Is there a potential for that? Something's to say, right? But I do think that unless the Bulls are getting either a surefire superstar back or they are trading into the top 3 of the draft, I highly doubt that that move is coming that's going to blow up this whole roster. Again, could be wrong on it, could be right on it, but keep in mind, we also just heard not too long ago that the Bulls were ready to start reshaping the roster around Zach LaVine, right? I think that when you pair that with the news and rumors that we've heard around the NBA of several high-level picks being up for grabs in this draft, I think it makes sense that the Bulls are gauging that interest. But that interest doesn't necessarily mean that they are looking to move on from Zach LaVine just to move on. They may have players on their board that they are willing to move off of Zach LaVine for if it means that they can draft those players. But generally, highly doubt that this team is just looking to move Zach LaVine in this offseason just to move him. You guys can let me know what you think down below. I'm sure we'll get some voicemails in on this one for the mailbag episodes coming up this weekend. Can't wait to hear from you guys. Make sure you're following the show at Bull Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related because of you guys. And like I like to end every video on, go Bulls, see red. Love you guys. And I'm about you. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.